Ross there. Ross Tucker, football podcast. You can follow him on social media at Ross Tucker. And he has the Army Air Force game on Saturday. Then he'll be in Tennessee. It'll be the Titans and the Chargers kicking off at 1 Eastern. Busy man. Let me start with tonight, Ross. Ravens favored by 7.5. That number surprise you at all?
A little bit. A little bit it does. I'll tell you why. A couple different reasons. Number one, the Dolphins looked really good on Sunday. And I don't know if that had more to do with the Dolphins or the Falcons just laying an egg, but you still had a team on the road against a decent opponent in the Falcons, and the Dolphins took them to the woodshed. Now they're playing at home on a Thursday night. And think about what we've seen in recent weeks from some of these road teams on Thursday nights. It hasn't been pretty. You know, the Steelers defense a couple weeks ago against the Bengals, they weren't able to hold up. You know, we've seen a lot of weeks now where the road team on these short weeks has not been up to it. The Vikings last week against the Chargers, I called that game for Westwood 1. That was a disaster. And then the Lamar Jackson factor, Dan. I know he's playing. I know that's why the Ravens are big favorites, but he wasn't healthy enough to play 4 days ago. They didn't play him 4 days ago in a game they desperately needed. So you just wonder, you know, is he 100%? Can he be full throttle with that hamstring? So it does surprise me a little bit, yeah.
Can Mike McDaniel win his way out of this mess and save his job?
I doubt it. I mean, he can, you know, if they win out the rest of the season, sure. Do I think that's going to happen? No. I think it's surprising that they were able to play as well as they did against the Falcons. I got to be honest with you, Dan. I kind of thought, I don't want to say that those guys had packed it in, but I kind of thought the Dolphins, number one, were going to be sellers at the trade deadline, and they still might be with edge rushers like Jalen Phillips or Bradley Chubb. But also, it felt like everybody knew that Mike McDaniel was getting fired and that Stephen Ross just wasn't doing it because he didn't want to take the chance that an interim head coach would have a lot of success and that they would feel compelled to hire him. But it kind of felt like Mike McDaniel was a dead man walking. He probably still is. So kudos to the Dolphins players and leaders for the way they played on Sunday. I mean, they fought for him if that's why they were playing. And I guess, you know, they still are keeping this thing alive if they can get some momentum. I doubt it, but we'll find out.
The Falcons, and I've used this comparison, and maybe it's unfair, but they're kind of the Chargers of the East Coast or the South, where every year we go, man, they got weapons. Man, they're going to be good. Now, I know the Chargers have had injuries, but I mean, how do you explain the Falcons?
I can't. I mean, they lost 30-0 to the Carolina Panthers earlier in the year. You know, Dan, I have a betting podcast, the Even Money betting podcast. The Falcons are banned. They're on my banned list now. Okay? Every time I'm like, okay, I start to believe in the Falcons and I place a bet on them on the show, they end up totally laying an egg out of nowhere that you're not expecting. So they're on the ban list. You know what I really don't understand? If you ask the running backs around the NFL, and look, Jonathan Taylor's having an amazing year, but you talk with like Saquon and some of these guys, they are blown away by Bijan Robinson. That should be the focal point of the Falcons offense every week. They should do with Bijan what Kyle Shanahan does with Christian McCaffrey. And yet there will be these games like this past Sunday where what did Bijan have? Get the ball 7 times in the game? I mean, that should just never, ever happen. And I don't know how the Falcons allow it to.
All right, you got the Chiefs against the Bills, and I know we want to make this a rivalry. It was kind of like the Red Sox and Yankees many, many years ago when the Yankees kept beating the Red Sox, and I said it's not a rivalry until the Red Sox win. Buffalo can win the regular season, but this isn't a rivalry until you win in the postseason, in my opinion. You agree?
I do agree. You know, it reminds me of when I was playing. Dan, this is Peyton Manning and the Colts against Tom Brady and the Patriots. They could not get over the hump. They would, you know, the Colts would win the regular season matchup sometimes, But then in the playoffs, when it mattered, New England would just always find a way to get it done. And it looked like that was going to be the case in the 2006 AFC Championship game. And then the Colts said enough was enough. And they made enough plays to win that game and then go on to win the Super Bowl. I thought maybe that would be the case with the Bills in the postseason last year. I thought it was a great opportunity. They weren't able to do it. And on some token, do you know the Bills have beaten the Chiefs in the regular season every year but one? And then the Chiefs beat the Bills in the playoffs. So on the one hand, Dan, I think some Bills fans probably look at it and say, you know what? I'd rather lose to them in the regular season, give us a better chance in the playoffs. The problem with that is the Bills now have competition in their own division. They haven't had it in a while, and now they're going to be fighting, tooth and nail to the death now against the New England Patriots. So they can't afford to lose this game and say, we'll beat them in the playoffs. You lose this game, now you're looking up even further at the Patriots in the standings.
We're talking to Ross Tucker, the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, and you can follow him at Ross Tucker NFL. You've got Air Force and Army on at noon Eastern on Saturday. Then you get on a flight and you go to Tennessee for the Titans and the Chargers. I've said this. I'm kind of on the warpath with this. If Cam Ward had a better social following, like if he was more popular, I think people would be talking more about how bad he's played, sort of like they did with Caleb Williams, because Caleb Williams had he got clicks. Cam Ward doesn't get clicks, but he's the number one overall pick in the draft. And I find that interesting that if Caleb Williams was in Tennessee and was having these numbers, we'd be crushing Caleb Williams. We don't even talk about Cam Ward or the Titans. Why?
I don't know the answer to that, but I wonder that myself. I think a big part of it, he was really only on the college football scene for 1 year. What he did at Incarnate Word, nobody even knew about. What he did at Washington State, people really weren't paying attention. Most people didn't know who Cam Ward was until he was playing last year for the Miami Hurricanes. Whereas Caleb Williams was the number one high school player in the country. He made a bunch of plays as a true freshman at Oklahoma, including in the game against Texas. Then he goes to USC, wins the Heisman his second year, is the presumptive number one pick. Even Shedeur Sanders got a lot more attention and a lot more clicks than Cam Ward. He's just kind of been under the radar, and then he didn't go to a big market team. He didn't go to the Bears or an LA team or the Giants or the Jets. He went to the Titans. So you have this combination of a guy that's been overshadowed in college by the Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels and even Shedeur Sanders. And then he goes to a team that's not good at all in one of the smallest markets in the NFL, and people don't talk about him much. And I think that's why it's going under the radar. What I don't know, and I'm curious about, is if we had flipped Caleb Williams and Cam Ward. So Cam Ward's in a major market like Chicago. Caleb Williams is in Tennessee. Certainly, there would be a little bit closer, but I still don't know how much.
The Lions got that blueprint of, they're signing up people before it's time for, that bill to be paid. They've done that with Goff. They did that with Penny Sewell. They do that with Aiden Hutchinson here. That's a big number for Aiden Hutchinson. That catch your attention?
It's a huge number. Two things caught my attention. Number one, this is very rare in the NFL. He benefited from getting hurt. He did. Because if Hutchinson doesn't get hurt, Dan, they sign him shortly after the season because he's after his third year, so they can give him an extension. And that's what they've been doing with these core guys that they really like, and rightfully so. But because he got hurt, I think they wanted to see how he came back from injury. They wanted to wait a little bit. Well, in the meantime, Crosby got a new deal. Myles Garrett got a new deal. TJ Watt got a new deal. And then Micah Parsons set the bar really high. So Hutchinson's one of the only guys I've ever seen that benefited from a really bad injury. As in terms of the way the Lions are going about it, they're getting a lot of credit for it. Dan, it's the Eagles model. The Eagles basically invented this, which is as soon as you know one of the guys you drafted is a core guy that you want around for the long term, you sign him as soon as possible because then you spread the cap pain over the entire length of the deal. So let's talk about Hutchinson, right? He has half a year left on the fourth year of his rookie deal. They had already picked up his fifth-year option. So then you tag on those 4 years he just signed to years 6, 7, 8, and 9, right? So it's a big number, but the cap pain will be spread out over 5.5 years, including the big signing bonus now, as opposed to just the 4-year extension. It makes it a lot easier to have a lot of talented guys on your roster. It's why the Bengals and the Cowboys keep screwing up and have all these type of cap issues, and why teams like the Eagles and the Lions, they get way ahead of it. Now, the negative is if those guys start to get hurt or those guys start to play poorly, you're stuck because you prorated so much of that money out over future years.
You cover college football. I'll leave you with this. The Louisiana governor, Jeff Landry, told reporters yesterday that LSU athletic director Scott Woodward would not be involved in the coaching search, and saying that he would let President Donald Trump do it before the athletic director. What could go wrong in this situation, Ross?
I mean, this is why college football, especially in the South, is so amazing, because I do think it is the case. I don't know exactly the inner workings, Dan, but I do think it is the case at a state university that ultimately the governor oversees it. I know, like in Pennsylvania, where I reside, the governor is able to allocate 3 or 5 spots to the board at Penn State. So I don't know exactly the dynamic between the president of the university and the governor of a state, but that is amazing. I mean, if you're publicly saying that the AD is not going to pick the football coach, that reminds me of like the movie Office Space. Like the consultants need to come in and talk to the AD. What is it would you say that you do here? Like if you don't pick the football coach, you might as well just fire the AD. I don't even know what he's doing anymore if he's not the guy picking the football coach.
Safe travels. Great to talk to you. Have a good weekend.
Always. Thank you so much, Dan.
Ross Tucker. We love him. Ross Tucker Football Podcast, and follow him at Ross Tucker NFL. He's got Chargers at the Titans on Sunday, Army at Air Force on Saturday. Take a break. Last call for phone calls. What we learn, what's in store tomorrow, right after this.